And as we continue painting the party's sorcerer, Dazan, we've got almost everything done. We've just got to finish out some accessories, painting some gold, and finishing out some of the lighter colors we did last time on the headband, beard band, and book. So this is all going to be focusing on the fine details. And going through, we're going to just start laying down some light colors on the sword tucked in his boot, or dagger, I guess, not sword, tucked into his boot. So Dazan in the party actually does not utilize weapons a whole ton. He does have an enchanted boomerang, but as of yet, the spellcasting abilities that he's been able to unwield along with the other party members' attacks has not required him to pull out that boomerang yet. But just going through, a lot of these details are going to be the same thing. So really we're able to put in a lot of the same colors. The book, the cover, we're going to do in a blue, just so it has a lot of difference from the red, but doesn't overwhelm with the green that we did on the inside. And color details, we're going to do a lot of gold. So starting out with an amber, then we'll just do a wash of a darker brown, and then go through and highlight up to bright white on the gold pieces, which is going to be this chain, the amulet, the belt buckle, then the hilt and pommel on that dagger in his boot. So it should be pretty good. In our story, Dazan has encountered a portal he was hoping would be the portal to his home, but it turned out not to be the portal. So he still has kind of an inside track on 3 more portals to explore. And with him looking for these portals, starting to get the attention of some of the other characters in the group. So we'll see where that leads with more RP, but just some fun backstory pieces to tie Dazan into the story, where the portals are being used with various creatures in the realm. Here you can see as we start to continue doing the wash. Now this video has been sped up, of course, so that we don't spend an hour watching paint dry. You can see that blue book really standing out there. And once we continue to highlight these gold accessory pieces, they'll really stand out from the leather for like the belt buckle and the boot. Once we get the brighter and brighter yellows being applied, this is just a non-metallic metal process for gold that I really like to use. Works really well. It's a lot of layering, but the outcome on it is really, really well done. And I think over just a metallic color, this really shows a lot more like sheen to it, actually, because you're able to really highlight the shadow to the high point rather than just a metallic color over a brown. I really like non-metallic metal for a painting effect better than layers of different metallics on top of each other. I think when they're on the table you can really see them because the light is generally not quite as bright as a display piece. So you really have to accentuate the shadows and the highlights. So non-metallic metals are probably my preferential for painting metal objects. And for Dazan, of course, we will still have to do the basing like the others, but we're not going to film that. After this video, however, he is ready to go to basing and then be put on the table. So getting very, very close. Then we've got one final miniature to paint for this adventuring party. Really excited to get these done and then in the hands of the players. So it's been a long process, a long journey, but I think they've all got a lot of unique individualism to the miniatures. I think the players are really going to like them, and I've been very happy being able to share the process on how I paint and go through and show the variations for characters on the table, how you can really make them stand out from each other and easily identifiable by the players. And with this non-metallic metal for the gold, you can see we're just going to lighter and lighter yellows. So I've started with a Reaper Triad, and then I've blended in between the three different colors. I've also added pure white on the end of it, so we'll go up even a shade or a few shades lighter than the lightest yellow in the Triad color. And it is challenging because some of these bits are so small. The pommel on the dagger, the belt buckle is pretty small, especially because it's got like an upper and a lower. There's a little like end to the belt, and then the chain that we're doing as well. Very small little bits, but by continuing to do these, I think we'll really do a lot for this miniature. And it'll really have a lot of character, and you'll be able to see a whole lot of detail in this mini. Now the amulet, because it's under the beard, I'm not going to be doing as much of the highlighting, and that's just because of the shadows from the beard. I thought about maybe going back through and doing it as a gemstone. I may do that after the fact. We'll see after it's based how it looks. The one thing I want to avoid is having too much going on. So if you have too many accessories and too much shiny bits here and there, it's really hard to discern some of the details that are sculpted in. So depending on how it looks after we paint, we may go through and make it a gemstone. We may highlight up to white like the other golds, or we may focus on a different detail altogether. After the paint's all dry, we'll have to really decide what we're going to do, and we'll take it from there. And likewise with the book, so I've started with just a blue, and I'm doing just a blue Triad, and I'm going to put some wear on that book on the edges where you would expect the color to fade the most. And then with the pages, we've already laid down the off-white, that linen white, just like with the headband. So we'll just do some white highlights, some pure white highlights onto the pages, as well as the headband, and not all the way around, just on like opposite edges. So two parts of it, 2/4 of the headband, to make it stand out from the forehead. And realistically, that is going to have our miniature painted once we have those highlights all done. Dazan has been a great character, bringing a lot of power to the party and a fun miniature to paint. I can't wait to see him on the table finished with the rest of the party and see him continuing his work at the table. But a lot of fun to paint. But wait, there's more. After going back through it, I decided, yep, we wanted to add a little bit more. So I'm just going to be putting in a little bit of details on the bottom of the cloak. And here I've just started with a very light, it's called Space Gray. And just a light gray. And then I'm going to do a blend of this light gray with white, and then pure white on highlights. Now these kind of details are all freehand and challenging to do, and I'm by no means any expert at it, especially when you have cloaks that are super flowy like this. But I just wanted to add a little bit more zing to the back. There's so much going on the front of this miniature that I thought the back needed something a little bit more. So I'm going to skip doing anything else on the amulet, And we're going to do these details here. And again, kind of challenging with all the flowing robe that was sculpted into this mini, but not too bad. One thing you can do to cheat on this is if you draw out your pattern on a piece of paper, then fold it similar to how the miniature is posed or sculpted, you can get a good idea of what you want to lay down in your freehand. This is just starting with the gray and a very simple pattern, and once that dries, then we'll just go through with the blend and start putting in highlights the same way we did with the reds. So the parts that are further out from the shadowed recesses, those will get highlights of the blend color, and then they'll finally get a final highlight with the white. And this is just going to give it a little more character. Like I said, really break up that back a little bit, bring a little more dimension to it. Because aside from the hair and a little bit of the book and satchel and a little bit of belt, there isn't a whole lot aside from just the flowing robes that go on in the back. So this will just help add in a little bit more dimension to it. And when it's based out, it should look really, really well and nicely finished. Again, I'm not the best at freehand. I still have shaky hands. And I'm not doing a super crazy serious pattern. This is just something that I can lay in pretty quick and easily and get a decent result out so that it looks good on the tabletop. If you're not comfortable doing freehand, you don't have to by any means. There are a lot of different ways to do this. I just use a really fine tipped brush, but they have specialized pens that you can do this type of work with. All kinds of stuff. There's Dazan.